divides his spare time between auto testing and racing. He's equally successful in both. And this is really dramatic stuff. He was second in an auto test yesterday in Slane. He's in top form. He's lying fifth in the Houston Championship, despite the fact that he's missed a lot of the rounds. And that's lovely. That was really beautiful, stylish driving. And 31.4 seconds is his time. A fabulous time. And here is Dermot Carnegie, who we were talking to earlier, the absolute expert, with the sponsorship from Dublin Crystal for the day. And this is a 12.75cc mini special, as you can see, really chopped off. And that's the way to do it. He leads after the first test, and this looks like being well on the way to fastest time in this one. A very busy man in that cockpit, and again, only just over the finish line. And a round of applause from the crowd. 29 seconds dead, the quickest on the test. After 2 tests, the order is Dermot Carnegie with a 3-second lead over Norman Ferguson, who also leads the mini class. And in 3rd place, a very good result for Arthur Davis. 4th is Lee Lucas in his Volkswagen Beach Buggy Special, and in 5th place is Patrick Parr. Test 3, Bookie's Folly, and well named. Still in front of the grandstands here at Leopardstown, but you will see there are some very solid objects indeed that Douglas Richardson, number 4, has to negotiate. Richardson has had other problems in this midget that's having its first competition outing, and he's having more problems now because he's got to back into that garage and he had to take 2 goes, as you saw. He lives just up the road, which is very fortunate for him because on the first test today, he, in fact, had carburetor trouble. He was able to go home and fix the car, but he's probably a pretty flurried man at the moment. Nicely round the final pylon and a stride across the line. 34.5 seconds, so he's lying right at the back of the field, a very unaccustomed place for him. On the line, one of the mini specials of Richard Lyons from Cabinteely, who is a professional driver, but in a very different type of motor car. In fact, he is a Garda, and drives the patrol car in the local nick down the road, Cabinteely. And it's lovely to see them competing and enjoying this, and maybe, who knows, learning a few tricks for his profession. Round he goes, and he's got this right, perfectly right. So he's also got a good memory, as all drivers should have. And when you consider that he's a complete novice, has only been competing for 9 months, that's an excellent drive. 33.6. And so far, the fastest. Peter Faulkner. His monolithic sponsorship. Oh, and he nearly got it all wrong there. He nearly made the 7 foot a little bit wider at the bookie's booth. I suppose you could say that Peter's always a good bet for some outstanding action, and there he goes. Absolute enormous enthusiasm, thoroughly enjoys his motorsport. And it may not be the quickest, but my goodness, it's certainly one of the most entertaining, and nearly, I think the flag went there. Peter Faulkner, absolutely devouring the flag. Yes, indeed, 33 seconds plus 5-second penalty. There's Paul Phelan, a very disappointed man, as he had a flag penalty on the very first test, so he's fighting back up through the field. Lying second in the Houston Championship, and an amazing man, because he competed in an auto test yesterday afternoon in Slane. He was out in a rally as a navigator last night, which he won with David Yates, won the Circuit of Munster, and here he is competing again today. So maybe the odd 5-second penalty could be put down to fatigue. But that looks good. 30.9. The first of the large saloons, Ron Mullen, number 12. Very distinctive with the tailgate wide open as usual. Front wheel drive, of course. Ron from Portadown, a sales engineer of agricultural equipment. And that is beautiful. That's the way to do it. Into the garage. The car. The time that you see on the screen is just an indication. It's rather unofficial time. We will give you the official times immediately after the run. A little bit wide there in the pylon, but very safe. And that is 32.7. Ian McCandless, number 7. Off he goes. It's a 1000cc Mini. He's from Portmarnock, and he just about gets it through that 7-foot gap there, round the stalls of Cookie's Folly, and scattering, as they say in Donegal, the bait and dockets. Yesterday, I would say, there was many a fortune won and lost, and that tells the tale of all the little scraps of paper. You see the knob on the steering wheel there, that's to help him maneuver the car more easily. It's like a little spinner on the steering wheel, and you can really flick the steering wheel round. That's a good time. 31.6 seconds.
31.6 seconds there.
Not quite as quick as Paul Phelan. He did 30.9. Again, one of the large saloons, as they're called in this class. Of course, it is a pretty small car, the Datsun Cherry. Frank Lenihan, an absolute expert, and just managing to put a crease in his to avoid putting a crease in his far door there. And that's the way to get it lined up before the garage. Front-wheel drive, of course. He's 36 years old, 3 children, Joanna and Derek, great fans here watching this afternoon. And Joanna, his daughter, takes all the times just to make sure that the officials get it absolutely right. It's 31.6. Patrick Parr, the Waterford farmer, and this should be a good one. He's now up to 3rd place in the US Championship after a very good auto test yesterday in Slane. Moved up from 4th to 3rd, just behind Paul Phelan in the National Championship. No problems about memory here. He's got it absolutely perfect. It looked very neat and quick. Just got to go around this pylon, a little bit wide on it maybe. Not enough handbrake there. 32.4. A slightly disappointing time there for Patrick Parr. Lee Lucas, 22 years of experience, sitting in the cockpit of this beach buggy. And after a rather slow start to the day, he really flew up through the results. And he's now lying in the 4th place overall. And a bit of trouble with the gears there for Lee. Belfast garage proprietor. You really must get the wheels locked and get the gear changed. Very economic around that one. And beautiful, very nice drive indeed, very fast indeed. 30.6, fastest time on that test. So Lee Lucas probably improving his position there. He's in 4th position overall before he did the test. We'll do our tots in a minute or two, but really coming up well. And Bookie's Folly has been no folly for him. Arthur Davis lying in 3rd place overall. Really quite a surprise. He's a man who can put up very good results in this type of sport, but he's not one of the big names, not yet. 30-year-old from Dundrum. Nearly ran out of the middle road there, up through the aisle of the Bookie's booths. Nice run, that one, and it's a good run. 31.4, but not as good as Lucas. So Lee Lucas, fastest so far on this one, but we've still got Norman Ferguson and Dermot Carnegie to come. And that's Norman Ferguson from Stewartstown. Wee Norman, who was 3rd in the Northern Ireland Auto Test Championship last year, and also 3rd in the Escort Racing Championship in Northern Ireland, so he's got a very busy season. Thoroughly enjoys his motorsport and comes from the sort of mid-Ulster region where you get very famous drivers like Harold Hagan. There's a whole gang of them down there. 1275cc car. Head out the window, full concentration. It's going to be a good one. 30.6 equals Lee Lucas's time. So joint quickest of that one with Lee Lucas. But here is the real expert, Dermot Carnegie. He has won 9 of the 10 Houston rounds so far this year in this special that he built since he was here last year. Oh, and even though the tail end went out a little bit further than he wanted to, he was so quick to correct it there. Again, just a little bit wide in, but it's awfully quick. And there he goes, very tight and over the finish, and it's got to be good. It's 29 on the unofficial clock. And there it is. So he extends his lead, 29.2, Dermot Carnegie. So he has almost a 5-second lead over Norman Ferguson in second place. In third place is Arthur Davis, putting up an excellent performance. Then Lee Lucas in fourth place in the Volkswagen.
Alan Tyndall is our commentator.
After 3 tests of the Flowgas Castrol Invitation Auto Test here at Leopardstown, Dermot Carnegie has almost a 5-second lead over Norman Ferguson in second place. In third place is Arthur Davis, putting up an excellent performance. Then Lee Lucas in fourth place in the Volkswagen Special, and in fifth place Frank Lenihan leading the large saloons. Paul Phelan working his way up after a bad start. A real expert in auto tests, and that's why. Wasn't that a beautiful maneuver on the handbrake and the whole car just dancing into reverse? And it could almost be described as the accountant's form of motorsport, and Paul is almost like a travelling computer. He can add up the times he's doing nearly while he's out there. Works in the motor trade. And his life is motorsport. He rallies, he time keeps, he's an official, he's in just about every club you could think of, and he's a correspondent for the Irish Independent. And the time, 41.8. Gary Kennedy, number 10, another one of these intriguing little specials. Again, his first year of auto testing. And very good he is too. So keen on auto testing was he that in fact he spent his honeymoon on an auto test. He just took up the sport a year ago and talked his new wife last November into spending the first day of their honeymoon to go to an auto test. Doesn't recall whether he won his class or not on that occasion. Going well here. So far so good. And the rear wheel of the Special lifting, as you can see, when the handbrake is yanked on. And that was nice. 45.8. Patrick Parr, Waterford, lying third in the Big Houston Championship, but again, not exactly sparkling today. He's in 7th place overall as he starts this test. Moved up from 1000 cc's to this 1275, the top class in the Houston Mini class. And had a very good day yesterday up at Slane. So they're pretty honed up, these drivers. They've been auto testing now for 2 days. And that was nice. Making no mistakes. But not totally spectacular. 43.2 seconds. Ian McCandless, who's at the moment lying just outside the top 5 in 6th place. A computer engineer, our time on the screen, only an indication, but it does give you comparisons. We give the official time immediately after the run. Again, Ian not positioning it just quite right going into the garage, but lost very little time from it. And you notice just getting the front wheels over the line there, not bothering to do the spectacular bit by disappearing underneath the grandstand. But this time he's got to go further in because he's got to get the front wheels over, and he did. He was dangerously near the left-hand flag, though. However, dangerously near is okay. It's hitting it that does the 5-second damage. 42.7 seconds, a good time. Frank Lenihan now leading the large saloon car class and lying in 5th position after 3 tests. Now on the 4th test, the well-named Leopardstown Maze. Datsun Cherry nicely on the handbrake there, but a little bit uncertain as he went into the garage. Very wide garage, it shouldn't really be giving them problems, and maybe that is the problem. They're not used to so much space around them. And he's lightened this car, as you will see. It if you look closely at the windows, it's a Perspex, which saves an enormous amount of weight in an ordinary saloon, but not really recommended for everyday use, as they're rather inclined to get very scratched. That was a good one. 43.8. Now Lee Lucas in 4th place, and but for a flag penalty on the first test, in fact, would have been snapping at the heels of the leader, Dermot Carnegie. Watch this. This will be both fast and spectacular. Garage proprietor from Belfast, and a very famous name over the years in Irish motorsport. Has competed, as we said earlier, for 22 years, and that includes many circuits of Ireland. Nicely in traverse, very fast so far. And notice how tight he is on the pylon there in reserve. His head flicks over, and that's beautiful, but it's got a little bit out of line, but it's okay, I think. Doesn't done him too much damage, that. And that's surely a good time. 39.8 seconds, quickest so far in this one, Lee Lucas. And now surely threatening this man, Arthur Davis, who was just 0.2 of a second ahead of him before the start of this test. So Davis really has it to do now. Oh, and he's lost time there. That could be 0.2 of a second. Davis having a superb performance so far today. He really doesn't have the experience of the people that he's beating, many of the people he's beating at the moment. And he's keeping a very cool head indeed in the Osborne King and McGran car. 30-year-old auctioneer and very much involved in motorsport, both as an official, astride the line. 41.7, and unofficially we reckon that's going to drop him a place behind Lee Lucas. So Arthur Davis moves down into 4th place and Lucas comes up to 3rd. But this is the man in 2nd place, Norman Ferguson. And just watch this. Little flick left and right. Little bit slower to the garage, but still it's going to be quick. And how tight and how close he is to those flags. Nice and neat out of it. A long, long reverse. That's where you have to rebalance yourself, but funny enough, he doesn't flick over his head the way Lee Lucas did. Stays watching out the back window, all in the same way. Unofficially, we make it 40. We'll have it 40.9. 40.9. As quick as Doug Richardson, but not as quick as Lee Lucas. Well, now Carnegie has nearly 5-second lead, and as we say in Leopardstown, almost 5 seconds ahead of the field. And he's really having it all his own way here at the moment with the absence of Kenny Irwin. He's won 9 out of the 10 Autotest rounds in the South of Ireland Houston Championship so far this year, and the only man to beat him in any of those rounds was Ken on one of his rare visits this year. The reason that Ken Irwin from Castledurg hasn't been seen so often is that he had concentrated on England, where he won both the major championships. But Dermot Carnegie, oh, very spectacularly over the line. And 38.8, almost not a surprise now, once again, fastest time. So he and Lee Lucas really setting the good ones there. 38.8 for Dermot Carnegie and 39.8, just 1 second slower for Lee Lucas. Well, after 4 tests, the 4 men who have been producing all the results here at Leopardstown. First of all, Arthur, you've just slipped out of the top 3.
Well, unfortunately, I think Lee is a little better at wiggle woggles than I am, but maybe a rear-wheel drive special goes quicker than the Mini 1000, I don't know.
Well, the man, the maestro that nobody can touch at the moment, Dermot, you're having a great run.
Yes, I've been going very well so far and have had no problems at all.
Well, you're nearly 5 seconds ahead. You can almost afford to take the afternoon off.
Not really, no. If I knock one pylon, that's cost me 5 seconds, so I have to keep fighting on.
Right. In leading the mini class, of course, is Norman Ferguson. Have you had a good run so far?
Not too bad so far.
Are you quite happy with things?
Happy enough.
You can keep this pressure up, because right beside you is this rather tall gentleman who, after an early mistake, is coming up very fast indeed.
Yes, I'm afraid I did have a line fault in the first test, but I've been driving fairly steadily so far up to now. So
Well, do you think, I'm going to ask you now, we're going to pull a little surprise on you four gentlemen here, because how much do you think the car has to do with it?
The car has a lot to do with it. My car is very light, and therefore it can go very quickly because it's carrying no extra weight.
Well, if you were in the same car as Dermot here, do you think you could beat him?
I think it doesn't matter. He still beat me.
Well, we're going to ask you, we're going to set you a challenge, because Bookie's Folly is just across the road here, and we picked up a dirty old tenner from, obviously left behind by one of the bookies yesterday. We've got an identical car that you've never seen before, a 323 Mazda. We're going to put the four of you in it to do the last test again, and whoever's the quickest wins this tenner. Well, this challenge has certainly caught the imagination of the crowd. A brand new 323 Mazda 1300cc front-wheel drive. None of the top drivers have ever sat in this car before in their life, and they're going to have to now, completely on practice, go and do test 4 again, the Leopardstown maze. So Dermot Carnegie in the car, leading the auto test by about 5 seconds, and this is a very different challenge indeed for him. It does have a handbrake, so they will be able to use that okay. And the car, lent by Grange Motors rather bravely for this occasion, being just backed into position now by Dermot Carnegie. It's going to be a very interesting thing indeed to see which one of these four are fastest. So there he goes, sitting on the line. The new 323 Mazda with the boot rather than the hatchback version, which of course makes it a bit longer indeed. He's already experimenting with the handbrake, and that's marvellous stuff. A big motor car to manoeuvre down there, and really that's fabulous. The man has never sat in this car before, and you really would have thought he'd practiced it. Dermot Carnegie showing the champion that he is. Now down at the garage, front wheels across, no mistakes. Finding it rather large in reverse, but very tight around the pylon. Not really knowing the width and the feel of this car. Really, the others are going to have a hard job to beat this. Again on the handbrake. Nearly getting close to the pylon there that time, but that's a super run. 45.9 is the official time for Dermot Carnegie for the bookies fiver. So, the second man to go is Norman Ferguson, who'll definitely have to pull the seat forward. Norman, with what some say must be Jackie Stewart's hat on. And there's no ball on the wheel, you notice. It's just a completely standard showroom car. And Norman Ferguson sitting up proud to the wheel. That's the only chance they get to get the feel of the car, just from the bottom up to the top. And gears, everything, totally strange. Similar gear pattern, mind you, to the Mini, which will help a bit. Norman Ferguson then, with a lot to do. 45.9 was Dermot Carnegie's time. Here he goes, again, no problem with the handbrake. And this is good also. That's super stuff. Down it goes again. 5 seconds evidently. We have a flag down. What a shame. So Norman's out of it, I would imagine, already, but he's showing that he can really adapt to a strange motor car very well. Slight crunch of the gears, did I hear? The long reverse round, and definitely that would be a bit slower for Dermot Carnegie. All hands and elbows, and again very proficient with the handbrake. And we see Arthur Davis there watching him. Lee Lucas will be next to go. Arthur Davis helping him in. 47.1. So Dermot Carnegie leads this special challenge with a time of 45.9 as Lee Lucas puts the seat full back, and you couldn't get more contrast between Norman Ferguson and Lee Lucas in height. The time to beat, 45.9. There he goes. Not trying the handbrake, they notice, just driving down the slalom. Now that's a different style to the other two, but still, it doesn't seem to be much slower, but he does put on the handbrake there, and he gets it now. Oh, and it's the wrong gears. The gears have fooled him. The others used to mini gears, which have the same layout as the Mazda, but Lee losing, I would say, at least a second or two there, which is a shame because going well. I think it's a credit to all these drivers, the way they've just got into this car, and Lee getting a little bit out of line on the reverse, but the way they've all adapted to the car. And he's left in the car at any time. Oh, there's the handbrake now. He's getting his confidence. 53, 54 maybe. 54.1 seconds, not at the ballpark for Lee Lucas, so it's still 45.9, and the man who could absolutely cover himself in glory here is Arthur Davis. So Arthur Davis, and away he goes, just off goes Arthur, up Chenier. And he's trying the handbrake, he's trying not the handbrake, he's trying everything, and he's trying very hard, that's for sure. That was nice. A little bit close to the far marker, but I don't think he hit it. One thing that isn't a problem at this stage is the correct way to do the test, because of course they've already done it in the competition proper now. And he's really having a go, Arthur. Very fast indeed in reverse. 45.9 is the time to beat. He's done approximately 30 seconds. And he's wrecked it. That surely gives Dermot the tenner. But great sports to take this challenge on.
Terry Tassin and the other Tolman. So Tolman's second and fourth. In fifth place, Johnny Cecotto, despite his